Hello, good morning, and welcome to another episode of Open Book Broadcast. I'm Allie, your host from the Right Place, Right Time, my virtual boutique of professional writing and ghostwriting services for all you badass folks out there who are ready to brave the blank page. Now, here on Open Book Broadcast, we like to talk about anything and everything writing and publishing, and myself and my guests are open books about it. I'm excited to have Paula Diaco here with me today. We are going to be talking about writing, coaching, and community. Now, I do have one little thing that I want to say. We are both experiencing some internet troubles this morning. So if we're cutting in and out, we apologize. We are going to persevere and we're going to do this anyway. But please know that there could be a slight delay here or there. Hopefully it'll be all right. But we were hanging out in the studio and it was a little rough. So we're going to do our very best to still bring you a valuable episode. So let me properly introduce Paula and then officially welcome her on so we can start our fabulous conversation this morning. Paula helps creative entrepreneurs play with words and language so they can bring their stories to life. Entrepreneurs who see the value of writing a book come to her for the storytelling tools she offers. They use the tools to produce content that builds their platform of informed thought and ideas, as well as the larger book projects that they want to do. Welcome, Paula.
Thank you. Thank you. I am so thrilled to be here with you today.
And I am thrilled to have you. Oh my gosh, everyone, world, meet Paula. Paula is just a love. I just have loved Paula from the moment that I have known her, and I've known her a while now. So before we tell them that story, Paula, why don't you just tell us a little bit about you and a little bit about how Write Stories.
So I am a book and writing coach, but I actually am a, should I say reformed microbiologist. I actually started out in the sciences, which interestingly enough also brought me back to writing. I felt like the science, which I adore and still adore today, was just so analytical, and the creativity. There's a lot of creativity actually in science, but when you're at the level that I was, which was not necessarily a PhD, even though I did PhD level work, you're not given very much regard when it comes to creativity. You pretty much have to do things that your boss tells you. So I returned to writing, something that's been a lifelong interest of mine, growing up in a writing family, as you know. And I started writing for trade magazines, Genetic Engineering News, and another trade magazine for the genetic engineering field. And then went over to consumer magazines, horseback riding, of which I know a lot about horses. And then eventually I wrote as a stringer for a variety of daily newspapers and some craft magazines, which was a lot of fun. Got me out and meeting people and interviewing them. So that's where I started my career, was actually as a magazine writer. So I really wanted that byline, which I will tell you is so thrilling to see it. Even today, if you get published in a magazine, it's like, there's your name right underneath the title, which is cool.
And then what about, so biology was at one point, and then all these years later, Write Stories Now. So
yeah.
How did Write Stories Now end up? I kind of still remember meeting up with you. Oh gosh, where were we? We were some coffee shop, and you were telling me you were going out into business for yourself, and I was like, oh my gosh. So, maybe nobody else would be as thrilled as I was, but I was thrilled. So tell us a little bit about how Write Stories Now came to be, and you officially put your book coach hat on.
Yeah. So, I spent a lot of years after writing for magazines working for the magazine publisher, an educational publisher. Then I freelanced as a business copywriter, and just always kept my hands in the writing, editing kind of mode, if you will, and just gained a lot of experience. Then my husband and I started a business, and I wrote again. I looked for excuses to write. So I did the social media, I did newsletters, I did marketing copy. I wrote emails, even my personal emails to like specific clients. I made them as creatively as I could. I wrote them as creatively as I could. They were funny. They were, memorable. A lot of times people would reply and say, I just write me an email a day, please, because you're just a lot of fun. And then I decided it was time again to go out and just really dive into writing and helping people. And when I say writing, that is like a huge umbrella of activity, which includes editing and ghostwriting and copywriting and all kinds of writing and writerly activities. And so I started copywriting again, realized I hated it, then realized I actually didn't enjoy it 25 years ago when I was doing it then. I just didn't know it. And I took out a big piece of paper, kind of like this one over here on the wall. I wrote down everything that I love, not just business wise, everything I love, food, movies, books, all the things. And then I put it away, and then I came back and I circled all the things that gave me that extra charge. And I did that over a couple of days until I narrowed it down. And I looked at what I had. I had a half a dozen remaining words on the paper, and it looked a lot like I wanted to work with people, helping them write, and specifically write books. And the second I thought that in like real words, I went, oh my God, that is exactly what I want to do. And so I just started telling people that's what I was doing, and I got clients. And I thought, well, that was easy, because and it just, as you know, it's just dreamy. I mean, I love to write my own books, but helping others find their way through the book writing process it never gets old for me.
Oh my gosh. So I think that two things that you said, I mean, everything is important, but two things that stood out that I want to highlight for folks is, number one, writing is a very big umbrella.
Huge.
Right. So when people say, oh, I'm going to write, like, that's a pretty broad statement, because there's all kind of genres, subgenres, and intricacies within those subgenres that you could pick apart for days. So when you are either somebody who's going to write or somebody who's looking for a writing professional, know what part of writing you're doing or you need help with, because that's going to serve you, right? And then the second thing that you said was process, the writing process, process. So Paula, don't give us all of your secret sauce, but what's part of your process to help your clients go through the process when you're working with them?
So they have to answer the big why. Why are they doing this? And I know they're feeling a calling to it, but what is that calling? And I want them to really define that, not just for me, but for themselves, because a lot of times when we really look at it and examine it and define it and have words applied to it rather than just an emotional feeling, which, by the way, is super, super duper important, then sometimes it becomes either less interesting, or they realize they need to make a shift in it because it's not really a book idea. It might be their author career idea, frankly, but they need to start narrowing down what it is they're going to be writing about. And within their expertise and their industry and their experience, there's probably 1,000,001 topics. So after the big why, then we narrow down the topics and the audience. And that is really forms the foundation for all the other work that they do. And but by define, I mean like literally define. We write a log line, and they write it, and I critique it. It really takes two people to write a log line. They're very hard. And I want them to know exactly what it is that they are writing, because it helps them then be less fearful of it. It helps them focus better. It helps them feel more comfortable with it. And it also helps them realize, is that really the topic I want to talk about? Or do I need to shift it a little bit this way or that? So that's a little bit of a process, and it often can continue right through the whole coaching. And midway through, they realize they have 3 books that they're actually trying to write, all related, but also all standalone, which happened with a client of mine at the 11th hour. And that was awesome. That like opened up a whole new world. It was an amazing experience for her. And I just got to sit there and watch her, all the light bulbs go off and the epiphanies happening. It was really exciting.
Yeah, I love watching people connect their own dots.
Yes.
Coming in one place and then leaving in a totally different place, having a understanding. It's like those worksheets, right? It's literally like those worksheets that kids get with just the numbers that are kind of outlining a shape, and it's literally they're starting here, and you're watching them kind of go like this, until
Right.
we're back over.
So
Paula, so you help them kind of really dig in with their why. You get that log line kind of narrowed down, or focused. And then do they actually start writing with you, or does it depend on the way that they're working with you? Do they leave after they get the clarity, or are they still there with you while they're developing the words?
They can, that can be all that we do together, and then they go off on their own. Generally, though, that is the start of a coaching package that they've purchased from me, and then it allows them to know what they're doing, and then we map out the table of contents, and they actually start writing chapters of the book, and I walk totally by their side as they do that. Yeah.
Amazing. So what's your favorite part about the coaching process with them as they start to write the book? So obviously the clarity and kind of their aha, the light bulbs going off is one kind of high for you. But then what about when they're actually working through the manuscript? Like, what's the thing that you're like, oh, this is so good?
I think it is a combination of their confidence that it builds. And people can come in confident as a confident person, but creating a book brings a whole other level to the game. And books are still so highly regarded, and they realize, oh my God, I'm writing a book. Like, I've always wanted to do this, and now I'm actually doing this. So it's fun to see them again get excited about the process and see the progress that they're making. Also, what's exciting to me, and I'm exploring this more with clients, is looking at the book as a stepping stone to bigger and better and other things, more books, workbooks, a career around it, because they want to use writing as their form of communication. They want to keep jumping into that beautiful space called writing and being creative and telling their stories, or telling people how to do something, that they want an excuse to do it more often, so we can craft then a career for them or an author brand that lets them do exactly that. And that's exciting for them to see that there's something even bigger and better. They can stop at the book. The book is big enough and perfectly fantastic. But if they want to make it an even bigger part of their life, oh, I can devise some things for them to do. I'm very good at that. I have no problem inventing yet other things that they can.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I think, one of the things that has come up in other episodes of Open Book Broadcast is the idea that, like, writing the book is not the end of the journey. It's actually the beginning of the journey. So once you get the manuscript kind of done or whatever, like, nope, like you're not halfway there. You're not even 3/4 of the way there. Like, there's a whole other world after that book kind of comes into your hands.
For sure.
So, okay. So you're a book coach. I'm a coach. And I've kind of veered from writing, kind of generally speaking, to helping people just get better at writing, to focusing on memoir mostly. But what's your thought on coaches needing coaches?
Oh, coaches need coaches. Coaches absolutely need coaches. I have been looking for a coach. I've been looking for my doppelganger coach for a couple of years, maybe more than that. I have coached with other people and they've all been wonderful, but like, I need me to get my own projects done. The woman who discovered she had 3 books was in fact a writing coach with a PhD in English, who helps college professors, women, write their own material so they can get further up in the rankings in academia and get what do you call it? Can't think of it. Tenure. Thank you. And there's a whole thing about women in academia, and she's a coach for them, but she needed a coach to help her write her book proposal and walk her through that process. And so she had no hesitation hiring me, even though I don't have a PhD in anything. And I've hired coaches, not just business coaches, but writing coaches. So absolutely, people need to be coached. We can't see our own, and it's not mistakes. We just can't see our own resistances necessarily, or we know what they are, but we don't know our way through them. And I can help my clients, but it's very hard to turn the tables on myself. I do it a lot. I'm sure you do as well. But then there are just some things you just really need that mentor at your side going, have you thought about it this way? What if you were to do that? What if you were to step back and examine this? Or what if you recognize that you've actually gotten a lot done? And yeah, absolutely. 100% back that. Mm-hmm.
We need that sounding board and that safe space, right? To kind of like have
Totally.
somebody else poke at us.
Yes.
In all of the best ways, of course. So
Yeah.
obviously, for those people who are catching this live or the replay, what a lot of people don't know is how Paula and I know each other. And so there's kind of the original origin story of Paula and I's friendship dates back to my getting my master's of fine arts, moving back to Vermont after I got that MFA, joining a writing organization here in the state of Vermont where both Paula and I live. And Paula was already a member of that organization. So I met Paula through a writing organization, and we'll talk about writing community in a second. But then when Paula got Write Stories Now Happening, I was not yet on my own business journey. And I'm back. And I was going back to my own writing and saying, I need to do this for me. And at that point, I was trying to figure out what my voice was, because that was one thing from my thesis committee when I got my master's of fine arts. My thesis committee said, this is all really well done. The writing is strong. The memoir is well, narrated. The arc is there, all that jazz. But they said, your voice is missing. Your tone, your personality, it's not there. Like, you have not found your own voice.
Yep.
And I was like, well, how do I do that? I don't know how to do that. And at the time, Paula was running a free 5-day workshop.
Challenge workshop.
And that was like March, April of 2018, maybe? 17?
I think so. Yeah, around then. Yeah, I think it was 2018.
Yeah. 5 days of whatever Paula, and I don't even remember the challenge pieces now, but what I do remember is that over the 5 days, I did the homework, I did what Paula told me. And by the end of the week, not only had I found my voice, but I got re-energized by a book project. Okay?
Yes. Yeah.
So
you ran with that. You even modified the worksheets to fit your specific need. And I remember apologizing that it wasn't really, the worksheet and the focus wasn't really on what you needed. And you're like, no, this is all good. This is all good. You have no idea how helpful this is. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
all right.
It was amazing. So at that point, Paula really became my coach through that 5-day challenge. She continued to meet with on other book projects. I think we met on a children's book a couple of times. Still sitting, waiting for something else, but that has nothing to do with Paula. That's on me. And Paula was also the person who did the manuscript critique of Dear Universe, I Get It Now. So I have continued to go back to Paula as the expert in my space, right? My space is in my writing and my writing world. And so I wanted to call that to people's attention today in this episode, because it's not like when we're as coaches looking for a client base that we're looking for people maybe who don't know anything about writing. We can still be useful to people who are very familiar with writing, but don't know how to take a step back from themselves and look at their own stuff.
Exactly. Or they're not seeing the elephant in the room, if you will, around, again, what are they missing, or what are they overdoing, or what's not working, and they don't understand that. And I remember, this is so funny. I remember when you wanted me to work to assess your manuscript for your memoir. And of course, I knew basically what it was about. And you had told me about it a couple of years before, and that it was about, your at the time you were talking about, it was all the failed romances or something to that effect. And I remember thinking at the time, you were what? Not even 30 yet. And I'm thinking, how many romances has this woman had that she feels she needs to write a memoir on it? And I thought, well, I'm going to find out. And when I started reading it, it became very clear what this book was about. Less about failed romances. Okay, they were in there starting from kindergarten or first grade or something. You had that flat man, the little thing the little crap,
cardboard Danny.
Cardboard. But it was about, you and your issue, and not your issue. There were no issues, but it was you finding yourself, right?
Yeah.
And that was the metaphor for it. And working on the assessment, I realized what a beautiful book it is, and I cried my way through it. Reading the stories. I couldn't believe it. I'd have to stop. I was at the time at a co-working space. I'd have to shut the door and have my moment. And if they knocked, I said, "I'm having a moment."
So what's beautiful about, I remember we had that working session to map out that memoir about the failed relationships, and that taught me so much, not just about that memoir, but the memoir that ended up becoming the book, right? Dear Universe.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, there's like more than one thing happening here. And so Dear Universe kind of like went one direction, and the failed relationships is still on the chopping block. It's still there to be potentially, I was actually just thinking about it the other day, and I was thinking up new titles for that one, because I was like, they're hinted at, those failed relationships are hinted at in Dear Universe. Still think that they get their own book. And so I was playing around with, and they all lived, and then in parentheses, happily ever, and then after. So that really the title is, and they all lived after. And we can just skip the happily part. Because none of those relationships ended up working out. So Paula's been really instrumental to me in my own development. Also been incredible in terms of masterminding as business owners, now that we're each on this entrepreneurial journey. So, if nothing else, right, like, know that coaches need coaches, entrepreneurs need other entrepreneurs, right? Like, we would never ask a surgeon to perform surgery on themselves. We would never want a therapist to try to psychoanalyze themselves. We would never want a doctor to diagnose their own cataracts, whatever it is. Right. So there's that piece. So I want to take a moment to talk about writing community. So we obviously were both a part of an organization. But what I find, especially in the virtual space, it seems very easy to feel isolated, because even though there's that social media and this forum and whatever, it's pretty easy to be at home with your head down, just click-clacking and typing away. Do you often coach clients on searching for a community, or do you have your own community?
Yes. I encourage them, even if they are introverts, because I'm an introvert, and I know, but I'm a gregarious introvert. I have to have some socialization, or it doesn't do my mental state any good not to. Plus, I like talking to people, and writers are very chatty. When they get together, it's all the writing things. And I love that world. I love talking about writing and books and conferences and events and book signings and book readings and what's going on in the greater Vermont community and who's doing what and who's got a book coming out. And I think writers by nature, we do tend to be quiet. There are a lot of introverts as writers because it seems to be a solitary activity for sure. But I even like co-writing and co-working, even though we're on Zoom and our cameras are off. I know that there's other people also out there at the very same time with me working on their own thing. And when we come back, we talk about it. So we, again, get to share the ups and downs, the successes, the specific things that we worked on. And that community is really, really important. Really super, super important, I think.
Now, one thing that you said, like writing community. So I just want to dispel this idea that for those of you who don't classify yourself as a writer, doesn't mean that you are not welcome or don't belong in a writing community. If you're
They are
working on something that involves words, then
Yeah.
you need a writing community. That's going to be
Yes.
your people, that are going to
You
help
are.
you.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And I've brought a lot of people into the Vermont writing community that are other Vermonters that were looking for other writers. And they finally sighed a sigh of relief that they finally found their people. Everybody needs their people. And writers are our people. And when we get together, we laugh and joke and we talk about serious things that are related to writing. All of it is good. All of it is really good.
Yeah. So I just put another highlight in the comment section. Everybody needs their people. Find a community.
Yeah.
Especially if you're not going to work with a coach or you're done working with a coach or whatever it is, because of the fact, going back to something we said earlier, that Paula said earlier about how broad writing is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Find the community so that they can fill in the gaps in between the working with the hired coach or whatever it is, because there's going to be things about writing in the next stage that you're not going to know that you're going to need the answer to. And the best place to get those reliable resources, book titles, other names of professionals, whatever it is from other people, right?
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah, you need those resources by you because at some point you might want to publish, or you might want to know what magazines to pitch or how to pitch there's just a million and one things that you can learn just by talking to other people. I was until recently the member of a monthly writing group for people who wrote children's stories. And for a variety of reasons, I had to leave. I'll return to it. But those monthly meetings, especially through COVID, meant so much to all of us. Just to talk about and to listen to each of our pieces of writing we would bring and everything. It was it was incredibly nourishing for us.
Amazing. So speaking of children's book writing, Paula, you're also a writer yourself. So what's the genre that you like to play in? What are you working on that excites you?
Yeah, so I love young adult and middle grade novels. I have several that I've started. I have one that I actually engaged beta readers in who are the age of the children who would read the book if it were out. Their insights were phenomenal. They're on a little bit of a break right now, but I'll tell you one real quick, again, funny thing. It happens to take place in 1999, right before Y2K. This is way before these kids were born. So technically it's a historical novel. Although if you read it as a non-kid, you wouldn't notice that until a few things. It would just seem like contemporary work. But for kids, it's historical. And get on the call. We're reading chapter 5. And the young gentleman who's part of my beta group said, okay, there's some acronyms in here I'm not quite getting, which is good that he's not getting them because that tells me I haven't explained them in context, right? Which is important. And he goes, what's the deal with AOL? What is that? What does that stand for? I don't get it.
Oh my gosh. I love it. Amazing.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Very good. I said, wow. You have no idea how much that tickles my funny bone, right? So cute.
Okay, so beta readers. All right, so folks, beta readers are really important. When you finally get to that, the manuscript is ready to be kind of reviewed by your ideal reader. Those are super, super helpful to letting you know if you've kind of nailed it on the head or you've missed the mark. So Paula, how did you go about putting together a group of beta readers, middle school or high school aged kids for your particular work, given the genre?
Well, I was lucky to know a writer friend and his wife I knew had a teen and a then tween. They're now both teenagers. And I said, and they're bookish kids and they're super smart and they're really fun. And I asked them, would they be interested? And they both volunteered immediately. And they showed up every week. They showed up and they had notes on pages they printed out. I mean, these kids were amazing. And they would say, all right, Paula, on page 5, I think we need to go over that dialogue. I'm not sure about that. And I mean, they were advanced readers, and particularly the older sister, I think, could definitely become an editor. Her developmental editing was stellar, absolutely stellar. I was shocked. And I told her, she goes, "Oh, I had no idea." She does it. She's got so much innate talent. It's amazing.
Wow. Oh my gosh. I love it. I love this story. This is
Yeah.
going to be like when that book hits
Yeah.
the shelves and you start going on tour, you know, that's going to be like that
Yes.
behind the scenes like thing that you can talk about that's going to really fascinate people.
Totally. Yes.
Yeah.
Totally.
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
Love. Okay, we've reached the half an hour mark, and I usually try to keep these things, to the 30 minutes. So, Paula, where should people connect with you, and what do you want to let them know about that you offer that can get them going?
Sure. So people can connect with me on LinkedIn. You can see the URL there. Happy to connect with you. DM me if you want to chat. And I do offer a half an hour grab free, actually, it's an hour now, plan a book session, which talks about and helps you guide you through figuring out your topic, your audience, your table of contents, your focus, your big why. And it's free. And you can DM me on LinkedIn in order to get the link to sign up for that.
Awesome. Okay, so folks, I did put a couple of things in the comments for you. Paula's LinkedIn profile, the grab a free plan a book session. Do not waste this session, all right? You want to meet with Paula. You want to talk about planning that book. You want to figure out like what you're doing, start to dig in with your big why. You will not be disappointed in working with Paula. Let me say that again. You will not be disappointed in working with Paula. I'm like one of her biggest fans.
I know. Thank you.
If anybody's like, geez, lay down on the love. No, I will not. I will not minimize the love I feel for Paula. I will not. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Paula, thank you so much for being here. Always wonderful to chat with you.
Yeah.
So please come and check out the rightplacerightTime.com. Jump on the email list, get to know me, what I do, my perspectives and insights over there. And then, of course, join me again Tuesday, October 11th at 10:15. We're going to have another open book broadcast. And I would love to see more people showing up live. But if you catch the replay, please put something in the comments. Let me know what stood out to you. You know, what kind of highlight grabbed your attention? What did you get out of this episode? So that's it for now, and we will be with you in a couple weeks. See ya.
Thank you. Bye.